Hi, I am Rachel Comminos, and I make tufted rugs that are meant for the wall. So they are tapestries. My process starts out with me looking at my yarn. I have an enormous collection of yarn, and I find one color that really resonates with me. And once I find that color, I look for other colors that go along with it. And then I have my design drawn out normally ahead of time. And I will start my process after I stretch my canvas onto a frame, a tufting frame. I use a monk's cloth, and then I draw my design onto the monk's cloth, and I get to tufting, which is using a tufting gun. It's kind of like a screwdriver and a sewing machine at the same time. And so I draw line by line my designs, and after that I back it with a synthetic latex and another piece of fabric, and I sew the two fabrics together. And then after that I trim my pieces. So I trim by hand, and all of my pieces use different, so I use different scissors and different methods to sculpt my pieces. And that leads to the end. Before this, I was painting, and I found out I was pregnant, and I couldn't use my paints anymore when I was pregnant. So I actually decided to find another way to make art, because I have to be making art. I decided to embrace the femininity of women's work, and I started embroidering, and I started punch needling, and it got me to tufting. And that was really exciting, because it was like punch needling, which is a slower process that is kind of like an old school, what they call granny craft, or like an old school women's work, you know? It's a form of rug making, and I started out rug making by punch needling, which would take about a month for something that would take me like maybe 2 weeks now or 3 weeks now. I saw tufting, and I was like, oh, maybe I could get into this. This seems like the same kind of thing, just a little faster. So I invested in a tufting gun and all of the supplies. My husband built me a frame that I needed to make my work, and I started out, and the first piece I made after that, I was hooked. The first piece, I was hooked. So that's how I started tufting, and I've been doing that since 2019. Well, I make art because I have to. I have made art since I was a child, pretty consistently, and my life is art at this point. So before it became art, my life became art, it became a practice, and practicing every day. And I'm lucky enough to have a big studio in my home. I live in an old hotel from the 1920s, and it has a 3,100 square foot studio for myself. So it's a big space. I get to go in there every day and work, and the practice just became my life after a while. So I make because I have to. If I don't, I start losing my mind, you know? The work in the show, it's a good mix of some of my older stuff and my newer stuff. My older stuff was more about connecting to femininity through materiality, and that was like the embroidery and the first tuftings. I have some of my first tuftings in this show, which is really exciting, from 2019. And my more recent work deals with the death of my father in 2021. So that left me with a gaping hole of what do I do? Who am I? It left me very vulnerable. So this body of work that I've been doing has been a healing process and a healing journey, as well as making portals to kind of escape the mindset and escape the everyday, you know, that death can bring like some pretty ugly feelings, and it's my way of making it out of that.